Good afternoon. How are you? I hope all is well. I think we've got some more joining us, which is great. So I hope all is well. We had something verging on spring-like sunshine this afternoon, or maybe that was a bit of optimism on my part. But anyway, it looked really rather nice. And it's been a fantastic week since, or a couple of weeks since sharing the Jubilee collection with you a couple of weeks ago. We've been planning and exploring and creating so many ideas with some of our favourite hotels here in the Chilterns, and I've spent quite a bit of time in the Cotswolds as well, which is one of the wonderful things about my job. I have to keep visiting all these lovely places. So while people are joining, let's crack on with our fabulous 6 days in the Cotswolds. Now, we decided to share this itinerary with you because we had such a great reaction to our brilliant 12-day itinerary that we shared with you, and we created this one for a really lovely family. It was the early part of 2019, and I'm pleased to say they are planning to come back, so that's wonderful. And it was a really special family trip for them. I think various things had been going on, and they just wanted to spend some quality time, the four of them. So it was mum and dad, and then the two daughters were in their sort of early 20s. So it was they're probably not going to go on lots of holidays together, just the four of them. So it was a special trip, and we were given quite a clear brief that the family loved history and sport, shopping and pampering. I don't think that included the father, as we discovered, and cars and cooking. So we were given a rather lovely broad brief in a way, and we played around with the itinerary for a bit, but we ended up with something really rather lovely, and that's what we're going to share with you. So if you have any clients who like those sorts of things, then hopefully this will be just up their street. And I have to share this with you every time because the Humphreys Promise is so important and so key to what we do. And as I was driving around the countryside over the last couple of weeks, it really just reminded me of how incredibly special it is what we do, and how lucky we are to work with all these amazing people across the countryside to create these fabulous itineraries. So big news from the UK side: as from tomorrow, we don't have to wear face masks anymore. So we can go into shops and wherever we want and not have to wear face masks. So obviously there will be some people who will continue to do so, but it feels another step towards freedom. So visitors coming in don't have to be tested and are not going to be obliged to wear face masks. I don't know quite what we're going to do with all of our face masks, but anyway, I'm sure we'll find something. And as we talked about, the brilliant Chelsea Flower Show and all of the wonders involved there is only 17 weeks away. So the sun will be out, the flowers will be in bloom, and they're all busy preparing and so on for it already. But if you've got any clients at all who are keen to go, the wonderful is it's 6 days, 5 public days, and it is 17 weeks today that it starts. So let us know, because then we can not only get the best tickets, but as we talked about, the brilliant Simon Sester could be hosting your clients and talk about the time as he's standing there when he was having a good old chat with our darling Queen, which is just very special indeed. So the 6 fabulous days. starting off with Chavenage, going down to Bath, and then back up to the Bathurst Estate, particular personal favourite of mine. Then a little bit going down south to Highgrove, back to Sime Sester, and the glories of Dalesford. So heading over this way a bit, which is always it's a good place to finish from the Cotswolds, because your clients will be heading back towards Heathrow. So it all makes it quite sensible. So this family, they loved their history, but they wanted it to be really authentic and real, and to get to the heart of these amazing houses. Now, you may remember we did talk about Chavenage, but Caroline Loseley Williams is well, I mean, she's an attraction in her own right, I think. I have never been shown around a house by anybody as entertaining and informed as Caroline is, and they absolutely loved her. And then Caroline's sister, who's a rather good cook, apparently Caroline says much better than she is, they all sat down as a family with the Loseley Williams family, and not only heard a load more stories about the beautiful Chavenage, but I think, from what I gather, shared a few family secrets and so on, which was just wonderful. So it was that real feeling of a family visiting a family home and spending time with with the family. And one of the daughters, apparently, we found out afterwards, is a little bit of a Poldark fan. She rather fancies, what's his name, Aidan Turner. So I'm not so sure whether it's Poldark or the actor, but either way, she was chuffed to bits to see photographs of him all around the house and so on, which was just lovely. And then they did all enjoy a bit of shopping, and we were told that the girls, the daughters, had really inherited a love of antiques from their parents. The family had moved home, I think, about a year before, so they really wanted to look for some bits and pieces that they could ship back home. So where better than to go in Tetbury. We had one of our favourite antiques experts who spent the afternoon with them. They went and had a lovely afternoon tea and dinner and so on. And our lovely antiques chap, Tom, was obviously so entertaining and so lovely that the family invited him to stay, not only to have afternoon tea with them, but also dinner. So they all had a great day. But it was a nice mixture of the sort of the antiques of within Tetbury, but also a wonderful old family home. So they then, the following day, headed down south. Now, at this point, they did separate a little bit, because the dad was really and totally and completely overruled. He wanted to go and do a walking tour of Bath, because it's a fabulous way to see the city. But the mother and daughters flatly refused to do that, and they went off and had some serious pampering at the spa. So while they were having all of their treatments, the father disappeared off around the Holborn Museum and all sorts of wonderful places. So when they came together for lunch, they were all full of the stories and so on, and had a rather fabulous lunch. They went for the restaurant in the pump room, so it gave them an opportunity to spend a bit of time in there as well. So it really was lovely for all of them, and they all got to do exactly what they wanted to. Now, the next little visit, the dad was rather skeptical about, but we won him over, and he got as engrossed in the wonderful world of Jane Austen as the mum and daughters did. I think one of them had studied good old Pride and Prejudice, so she was rather proud and thoroughly enjoyed sharing her knowledge with the rest of the family. But they had a private visit to the Jane Austen Centre, And it's glorious because the actors get all dressed up and they play the part and so on, and it really does bring Jane Austen to life. I did suggest to them that they could go down to Steventon and Chawton House and so on next time they come over, but that apparently was a step too far. It was a bit too much Jane Austen, but anyway, you never know, we might do it. But one thing they most definitely share is a love not only for antiques but for gin, and they've made it a bit of a family thing that they try different gins now whenever they go out or visit somewhere new and so on. And there's a brilliant gin distillery in Bath. So they experimented, made some lovely cocktails and so on, and then headed off to one of our favorites, the little Framptons, for dinner. It's a super restaurant for both lunch and dinner. So they had a lovely time. Now, because they were, I think it was May 2019 they did this. Obviously, the Christmas market wasn't on, but I think they may well, one of the discussions at the moment is that they may come back in time for the Christmas market this year, because they loved Bath so much. They wanted to visit it when it's all decked with the lights and so on. Now, Sime Sester is quite an unusual place, and I think it's not mentioned as much as it deserves. Officially, it's the capital of the Cotswolds. I mean, it is sort of right in the middle, and it's a beautiful little market town. And I mean, I'm lucky. I grew up near that part of the world, but we were visiting members of the family just before Christmas last year, and stayed over, and we had a bit of a wander around Sime Sester Park and in the town, and it just reminds me what a beautiful little place it is. And it may be a lovely little town, but there is also a heck of a lot to do while you're there. Now, the Bathurst Estate is one of the very rare estates. I mean, I know very few, I think, that fulfill this. That it is right, the Bathurst Estate is actually attached to Sime Sester. So very unusually, you can sort of climb over the trees and see into the estate, because obviously most of them are out in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, the Bathurst family go back on this site to about 1689 or something. So they've been around a few years, and they've really protected and preserved the estate land. It's stunning parkland and woodland and so on. It's absolutely magnificent. And as we love to do, as you well know, is get the old private access to the estate, and the Bathurst is no different. So your guests and our family were treated to a right royal welcome by the current Earl Bathurst, and his wife came and joined them, I think, for a cup of tea at the end. But they had a really wonderful time. And actually, the Bathurst has a special association for me, because I went to a boarding school in between Cirencester and Cheltenham, near, if you look it up, a beautiful little village called North Cerney. And the Bathurst Arms was the local pub in North Cerney. Now, obviously, being under 18, weren't officially allowed into the pub, and the landlord was quite tight on the rules, but we did manage sometimes to sneak in, particularly once we'd gone past my 18th birthday. But it's a lovely link, and the Bathurst family is still very much involved with the pub and so on. So I was very lucky. It was a beautiful place to go to school. Now, Ascot, Guards Polo Club, is not the only centre of the universe when it comes to polo. Guards may be the centre of European polo, but Cirencester well and truly holds its own. It's huge. And I remember going and watching all sorts of fantastic polo games there. They have mixed levels of polo, and there are probably actually more polo games played at Sime Sester than at Guards. It makes it a little bit more accessible. But as always, we will host your clients with well, either EB or one of his friends who knows Sime Sester a little bit better, and that's certainly what our lovely family did. So they sat and had lunch, and none of them had ever played polo before. They'd never even seen a polo match, but by the end of it, they were treading the divots, and they got well and truly stuck in, and were cheering their favourite teams along. So it was great fun. I think there was a bit of an attitude of, you know, it's a bit too English, it's a bit too upper class and all the rest of it, but actually they discovered it's one of the best games on the planet to watch. So they did have a lot of fun, and the weather was particularly kind to them as well, which was just great. Now we did include a trip to Highgrove because it is one of the most beautiful gardens in the area, and obviously His Royal Highness Prince Charles has overseen the development of Highgrove, and I remember him moving in there actually, because my family live in Tetbury, a couple of miles down the road from Highgrove, and everyone was terribly excited that he was buying a house. But I think all of the locals are so grateful to him, because he's really created this absolute haven in the middle of the countryside, and it really is just lovely. So our lovely family had a bit of a poodle round and a lovely cup of tea and so on, and they really know how to do it well. And sadly, when they were there, actually the Highgrove shop in Tetbury wasn't open, but normally we would suggest popping into Tetbury and having a wander around, because it's a fabulous shop. It's fairly horribly expensive, but it's a beautiful shop and a lovely place to buy some of the lovely products. And then they just wanted a day, or they said they wanted to see the countryside. So we suggested that they could go out on a bike, but funnily enough, they didn't go for that. Don't know why. So they ended up choosing a rather fabulous old classic Jaguar. And this had a real poignancy for the mum, for Jenny, because her father was a real bit of a car nut, and he had driven a Jaguar, classic Jaguars or Jaguars when she was a little girl. So I think it brought back all sorts of wonderful memories. Added to which, the sun was out, they put the roof down, and they chose to do a self-drive. I mean, we can obviously do chauffeurs or self-drives, but we gave them some routes and told them where they could stop off for lunch. They didn't want the sort of commitment of having to be in a particular village at a certain time, so we didn't book them anything, but it wasn't the height of summer, so we thought they'd be quite safe. And so they headed off with their routes and their sat nav, and they just had, I mean, the feedback was wonderful. I think it was one of their favorite days, actually, that they just had the wind in their hair and the freedom to stop and have a poodle around a village or a town or just somewhere that they wanted to see. They didn't sadly see the steam train that Linda and Dave saw, but they really had a wonderful day, and it was just absolutely what they wanted. And amazingly, they said, because they had a rather huge Cotswolds lunch, they even managed to stop off for an afternoon tea as well, because they obviously had a lot of fresh air and were feeling a little bit peckish. So it all worked a treat. And I think those sorts of days that don't have to be structured and curated and so on but the treat of being in a classic car, they walked out of their hotel and there it was, you know, gleaming, and they all piled in and off they went. And it was, I think from what they said to us, it was one of their favorite days, which was just lovely. Then they went cooking, and one of the daughters has a particular passion for food, and it kept coming through that food had to play a big part. She's even got her own Instagram feed that is just endless food pictures. So she was in her absolute element, but they all love Daylesford because it is just so lovely. So they started the day with a cookery masterclass, and I think the father, I think Patrick, was at the end of rather a lot of jokes, because apparently his culinary abilities are not particularly good. But he rolled his sleeves up, got stuck in, and they all had a fantastic time. And then once they'd had a lovely lunch in the restaurant, and I seem to remember actually they were even able to sit outside because the weather was lovely, and there's this beautiful courtyard outside the restaurant. And if you ever try to book a table there, you can't, but we can. So just let us know. A little tip there. And then at the back of Daylesford is this amazing spa. And one of the beautiful things about it is that you can sit in the sort of relaxation room before or after treatments and just stare out across the most beautiful Cotswolds countryside. And you've got your coffee or your water or whatever it is that you're drinking. And I think they spent a lot longer there than they originally planned to, because they couldn't, I think, quite believe that they could want to spend so much time at one place. But you get to Daylesford and it just all takes you over, and you don't want to leave. And they didn't choose to, but there are some beautiful little cottages, so you can actually choose to stay right on site, and the food is fabulous. So that was their little their sort of tour of the Cotswolds, and they'd spent a few days in London before this bit of the trip. So they'd had lots of fun sort of seeing some of the sights and so on. But what they loved about the Cotswolds bit of their trip was that they got to meet some locals. They got stuck in and actually sort of part of it all, and ate some rather fabulous food along the way. So it was just lovely. Actually, it was a very special trip. And as we always do with any trips longer than or sort of 3 days and longer, they had their trusty mobile phone, cell phone, with all of our numbers programmed in, so they could contact us at any time. And the really lovely thing is, the only time they contacted us was to send us pictures and text messages and feedback that they'd had a lovely time. So no problems and all the rest of it, which is the best way to be. But at least they knew they could always contact us. So that is our 6 days in the Cotswolds. And obviously your guests can pick and mix. And sorry, there's a question there. They actually chose to stay in Tetbury. There's a rather quirky small hotel. It's only 4 bedrooms, and the name of it has gone completely out of my head, but we will send you the link to it with the recording. But it's absolutely wonderful. It's the design of it is something like you've never seen. It's right in the center of Tetbury, and the couple who own it just love entertaining and looking after their guests. And so they went for that rather than a maybe more standard hotel, because they were thinking about Calcutta Manor, which is one of our favourites just outside Tetbury, but they wanted the small and quirky, and it worked a treat. So I will send you the link. My apologies, I cannot remember the name of it. I've had a bit of a mental blank, but so I hope that was helpful and has given you some ideas maybe to share. Please let me know if you're getting any requests, and we can do there are specific tea and training subjects that you would like us to cover, but we will definitely see you again, I hope, in 2 weeks time, and really look forward to it. But thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Todd, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye.